Hello, everybody. Welcome to Weekly Whiskers with Greenwell Fishing. Tonight, you see, we got Scott Turnage, Mr. G3 Boats himself. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. I got my coffee cup here. Let me get it. It says best cat dad ever.
There you go.
And I'm sure that my cat will make an appearance. But yeah, I'm doing just fine, Mike. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well. We're doing well. Hey, I appreciate you taking the time out. Come on and hang out with us for an hour tonight.
Yeah. Look forward to it. I ain't got anything else to do tonight. What better thing to do is hang out and talk fishing.
That's right. Talk some fishing. That sounds good to me. Do a few shout outs here. I seen some guys in here early. Mike Sampson, Mike Lewis, Ernie Brown, Mike Irvin. All the Mikes came in. Catfish and Katie Collins. I seen Creo. Fishing with the Chad. I seen him come in. Georgia. Hooks and Hammocks. That's a new name. The Boss. Thanks for coming in.
The boss.
The Boss. Mike Chavez. Mike's a good guy. Mike fishes down in Virginia. Catches some big old cats down there. Looks like Dee just came in. Can you see the chat at all?
Can I see the who?
The chat.
No, where is it?
On
the phone?
Yeah, probably.
No, I can't see anything.
That's all right. I'll have the other guys help me if I miss any questions. They'll point them out for me.
All I see is you.
Really? I figured. Well, we'll make it work. How about that?
Hey, we're good. We're good.
Hey, I've been watching your channel on YouTube for quite a while, and man, you go all kind of different places, chasing all kind of different fish, don't you?
Well, a lot of that was back when I was doing, of course, the TV show, and so I should have started putting those stuff on YouTube back in the day when I was running a show, but doing 26 episodes a year, I was pretty busy. So when people were talking about YouTube, I'm like, I don't have time for YouTube. I've got this TV thing going, and it was just too much, including Facebook and all this other stuff that people were getting into and all that. And so, yeah, I have. I don't know how many different states we went to, but it was a lot of fun. And so here lately, in the past 3 years, I've tried to do some YouTube stuff. What I like about doing the YouTube stuff, which a lot of these guys are, there's no rules really. You know, it's the Wild West when it comes to online stuff and YouTube videos and stuff where you're doing TV. You've got so many stipulations and rules and everything you got to keep up with, and the broadcasters can be aggravating to deal with or whatever. I mean, you can see these things out here now shot with an iPhone and guy smoking a cigarette and a beer in another hand, dragging a fish up on the bank and gets 100,000 views. You know,
Yep.
I mean, it's just anybody can get out there and do it now.
We had a few more come in. Say hi to Lynn, Mr. Lyle from Catfish Weekly, Jimmy from Fishing and Gear, Mark, Big Mike, Dale. How y'all doing? I know you've been a lot of places. It looks like Alabama has been really well to you.
Well, that's mainly because I talk like those boys down in Alabama. See, if you want real quick, I can put my Alabama hat on now real fast. So, yeah, if you're talking about like the picture I sent you that you use for your thumbnail,
yes,
that was a trip that I fished with Ryan Casey, a couple of Missouri boys going down to Alabama, and I'm gonna tell you, this was a couple of years ago, and it was cold here. I mean, colder than by God. I mean, 30 degrees and wind blowing, and so let's go down to the sunny south. Let's get away from the bad weather or whatever, and we go down there, and it's 28 degrees. So we didn't really escape the cold, but we were going to go. And when you shoot these shows and episodes, you know, if you're not shooting a live feed or whatever, you know, everything is concurrent. It just goes as is. If you're shooting an episode that you're going to edit, then you can put fish in different places or whatever. If you want to have a finale with a big fish, then that may have been the first fish you caught, but then you can edit it, you know, of course, towards the end as a good finale. Well, what on that first day when we were down there, I mean, I hope you don't. I don't know if this is what you wanted me to do, is tell stories or whatever.
Oh yeah, story time.
But the first day, I mean, the wind just blew like a banshee. It was rougher than a wood hauler's butt out there. I mean, it was just bad, and we couldn't really catch anything out where we wanted to fish off the channels in that brush and stuff. We were actually on Wilson, so you know Wilson's not a very big lake. From dam to dam, it's only about 20 miles, if that. And so we pull into a cove just to kind of get our bearings. And, you know, you hardly ever catch a big cat in a cove, you know, especially down there. But we got in there, just got rested up, and we ate a little bit while we sitting in there in the boat, kind of warming up before we went out there and tackled the waves again. We're getting ready to reel up, and Ryan's reeling up, and he goes, "Man, I've got a fish on here." And it turns out it was a nice fish. It was probably, you know, 45-ish, somewhere around there. And I thought, well, okay, we've at least got a big fish, you know, for this. We're going to fish tomorrow. The weather's supposed to be better. So, okay, we've got us a big fish. And, you know, 45 pounds is pretty good for most people, but
yeah, that's a good fish.
Guys, you know, 45, that's almost like bait. So anyway, we're getting ready to head in, and it was getting close to dark. And in fact, I could see my truck at the ramp. And Ryan says, "Man, this is an old spot of mine. Can we stop here?" I said, "I'm going to give you 20 minutes. And that counts baiting, casting out, 20. Right now, the clock starts now. Well, man, we get out there, man. We're just hustling and going. The battery on the main camera is gone. It's gone. It's done shot. We've been out there so long, and all we had was a little handy cam left that had my cameraman in there. And I was talking to him, and it was about 4 minutes to reel up time, and we were going to go. And man, that fish, there was a good takedown. I jumped up there and, like a cat that I am, jumped up there and grabbed hold of that thing, and I couldn't tell that there was any weight. I couldn't really feel a head shake or anything. You know, I'm just kind of reeling it in. Well, I'm just milking it, you know, how you would do, talk while you're reeling, you know, oh, well, you know, we've had a great time here, yada, yada, the old TV host stuff, just keep from having dead air. Really didn't think much of it. You know, I thought it was going to be about a 25-pound fish or whatever. But when that fish hit the surface, our moods just, instantly, we all went straight business right there. And we got that fish in, and of course we put it in the live well. Fortunately, we've got a big live well in that Sportsman 2100 that we were in. And, you know, because I'm so conscious about, you know, harming these fish, especially these big fish. I'm not one of these that want to keep it out. In fact, I think I only got about 3 pictures of this fish because I was just so worried that this fish was going to be so stressed out and not make it. And I'm really anal about that. And so we got it revived in the well. And of course, you know, we had to show it, you know, we showed it on there and everything. And it was a really big fish, and we had fun with it. And it was so funny. I don't know how much this fish weighed. We kind of talked a little bit on the show because Ryan's scales, something wasn't right or whatever, but it was big. And could it have been 100 pounds? It very well could have. I mean, it was big. And so it was, I wanted to get this thing released. They were wanting to get pictures. They were wanting to yuck it up more on the camera. All I'm ready to do is get this fish back in the water. This fish has been through hell in its life. It was missing an eye. It looked like it had been hung on a line or whatever. So, I mean, this fish, if anything, deserved to get back in there. It was this fish. So it was so funny. They wanted one last picture. So they told me, they said, hold it over the boat so we can get a picture of it. I'm like, hell, who's going to hold this fish out like this? You know, I said, get what you want. You better get the release because I'm putting it back in the water. and I got it back in, and he swam away, and it was a great time. And you know, any of these bigger fish that these guys are catching that you see everywhere on Facebook with all the growing numbers of catfishermen and everything, I think they all feel about the same way as I do about. That's why you don't see that many pictures, because they're so worried that something's going to happen to this fish and it's not going to make it. So that's what's really cool about the catfishing community is that, you know, I'm talking about the real cat fishermen here that are really, really conservationists when it comes to the health of these big catfish. You know, there's plenty of them out there to eat. We can eat 5 and 10 pounders all day long, but you catch one 60 pounds plus. I mean, that's a trophy. That's a trophy catfish, and you want to put that fish back in as quickly as you can. And you see the majority of these guys. And hats off to all of them out there, because they do that.
I definitely think that fish was close. He had to be 100 pounds or really close to it.
He was big.
That was a big fish.
He was big, and like I said, he wasn't. You know, where you see some of them that are just fat from the jowls all the way then the tail. This one was just really, he was big barrel chested and big old traps on him like a weightlifter, and but he was so long that the girth, you know, was so thick here, and then it tapered at his tail only because he was so long. You know, that's what kind of threw it a little bit, was his length, at how long this fish was. But that was by far, that was the biggest catfish that I had ever reeled in. I don't want to take full credit for it. I don't even know that I made the cast on that one. I think I made the cast of the rod next to it. I don't know who actually made the cast out there. Ryan picked the spot. I was fortunate enough to grab the pole and reel him in. But I'll give Ryan all the credit. Ryan Casey's a great friend. You know, quick story. I found Ryan. God, he was just trying to get started with his Show Me Catfishing, and I found him up. I was shooting a show with Jeff Williams on the upper Lake of the Ozarks, and Ryan was there with a friend of his. I think they were doing some videos back then when he first started. I don't remember who it was with, but they were doing some videos. There was 4 or 5 guys that were in on this. And he said he was starting a guide business over there. And I thought, well, shoot, you know, that's back when I was doing a show. And I went over there and did a show with him. And fortunately, there was enough people see it. And then next thing you know, his business got, you know, picked up some business due to the show. So then over the years, we would do at least one show a year. And so it's always nice. That was the one gratifying thing about doing a TV show, with the amount of people that you can help, especially guides that we're just getting started or whatever, and getting them some business and some referrals and stuff. So that's what I'm really most proud of is helping these people out. But yeah, that day I just made a short story long here. I took up
all right.
one
all
show.
right.
Hey, I'm a TV show host, so I have no problems talking. I'll let you talk now.
Well, we're going to do a few more shout outs. I seen John Boys come in, Betty, Papa Egg, Chrissy, my buddy Stephen Heiss came in, Kevin from Palmetto Cats, Size Matters Outdoors, Sharp, and Justin Fish and Fetish. And we're going to stay on Alabama. I seen you had some pretty good shows down there with Mike too, haven't you?
Yeah, Mike Mitchell.
The one that sticks in my brain is all them big old flatheads you guys was down there.
You know, the thing about that flathead. Now, here's the thing. I've tried for, oh gosh, a half a dozen years trying to get somebody. I wanted to do a flathead show, just nothing but flatheads. Well, all I'd hear is, well, we'd have to go at night, or you better give me 3 or 4 days, and this, that, and the other, and everything. So I was just about to give up hope that I was not ever going to do, not that I wasn't going to catch a flathead, but I just wasn't going to do a true flathead show. Well, then I had done a show with Mike, I think 2 years earlier, with him. And it was just I remember that day was so foggy. But anyway, we caught some fish and did a nice show with him. And he called and said, hey, you still want to do a flathead show? And I said, oh, if it's the last show I ever do, I want to do a flathead show. He goes, well, you know, I'm on some right now, and we may be able to do it. So we go and you know, we had the fun where we went up to the dam and we caught our fresh bait, our skipjack and stuff. I think I played some funny music with it or whatever, and we caught our bait. Here's another day. We get out there, the wind, my gosh, when I lived in Alabama, the wind hardly ever blew. But the 2 days that you're talking about, these 2 trips right here, it's like just gale force winds. And in fact, it blew us off. I mean, we didn't even fish. Well, no, I take that back. I think we caught 1 fish that morning, and it was just so bad that we just had to leave. And we just went and ate breakfast and licked our wounds and went back the next day. And that's when it all happened for us. And yeah, Mike is one of those soft-spoken, but he's got that dry, fun sense of humor. If you're ever around him, you can just tell his wit can be a little sharp, but he's just, you know, he's real dry, he's real quiet, you know, but he done so well on camera. You know, I was very, very proud of him and how his persona come off and how he did on camera. And he did really such a good job. And he put us on some good fish. That one flathead I caught, I have no clue. It's hard to judge how big flatheads are compared to blue cats. It's kind of like smallmouth versus a largemouth. You know, you look at a 6-pound smallmouth and he looks like a 9-pound, as big as a 9-pound largemouth. Same way it is with this flathead. You know, your flatheads are so big as far as the head. They're mostly right there at the head, and then it comes down, unless they have a big belly on them. But this fish was really big, and of course the pictures I took of him, it made it look like he was about 40 pounds heavier than what he was. But still, he was very nice. And I think we caught 2 really nice cats, flatheads, and then 3 or 4 smaller ones or whatever. But we really had a good time. And that was a very popular show. And people really liked it. And I think it was just due in part to Mike, of course, and just being all flatheads. You don't see a lot of flathead episodes.
And people love them flatheads, that's for sure.
It was really fun. It was a fun show to do.
I got a question here in chat for you. Let me go back and find it. My buddy Creo, he said, what are some things that y'all do to prep or research a new area before deciding to attempt to film a show?
Well, I like to at least talk to the individual. If I have gotten somebody got a hold of me or whatever, you know, I want to talk to the individual and just see what all's going on and you know, what they're getting into, how many days you think it's going to take. Of course, I have to do everything out of a G3. You know, whether I need to bring my boat. My goal is to have everybody all you guys in a G3, and then I never have to have one. I just show up somewhere and I can just get in a boat. I don't have to worry about it. But really, as far as, you know, forecasting and planning, now that I'm not doing TV, I don't really do that. I just kind of, because you can see anything on these phones now, on Facebook or Instagram or whatever. So you know what's biting. You know what's going on because everybody now is doing, you know, either live feeds or they're posting pics while they're fishing. So if that looks like a great opportunity to somebody, I'll usually get a hold of somebody. You know, I say, be like you, and I say, hey, Mike, I saw you caught some pretty nice cats right there. What's up with that? And you go, well, you know, I took off work and we went over there and got in the river and they were doing real good. And then I would say from there, well, how long do you think this bite will be? Is that something you might be interested in? If I could come down, maybe shoot a webisode or whatever. And so that's how that works now. Now, who asked that? Creo? Is that what you said, Creo?
Yeah, Creo catfishing.
I don't know if that really answered his question, but we really very seldom anymore do I just get a calendar out and I'll just say, okay, well, in this month I want to do this, and I'd get that down. I'm really just looking at all you guys and what you guys are doing, and then I just kind of go from there.
Now I got a few more shout outs here. Catfish Heroes came in. Seen Buckeye come in, Dave, Maurice. Appreciate y'all stopping by. We're up to 41 people in the show. Avid just popped in. I remember a video where you lost the camera. You want to tell us that bad luck story?
Let me think. One of my POV cameras. Yeah, that
Yes.
was that last year? This past season or year? Yeah, I was actually on the Osage River around Lake of the Ozarks. They had it seemed like Truman was really flooded or something, and I think they was either just had a tournament there or were just getting ready to. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna go out there now by myself. Now here's another thing. Guys that go out there and video themselves, they can understand this. They can appreciate this. It is not easy. It's not easy at all. What I like to do is I put a chest harness, and then I've got a Garmin Verb. It's actually an older one, but the audio is very, very good on it. So I put that on a chest, and it's easy. I can just flip. As soon as I get a bite, I can just flip the on switch, and within 3 seconds, it's on. That's my audio. Now, the stationary camera that I would have on a loop, the other POV is usually what are they now? I'm losing my mind here. GoPros. This was a Hero 4 Black, which I think is one of the absolute best GoPros they ever made. And this is the only time I've done this. I had this suction cup from GoPro forever, and I mounted it on the cowling on my outboard. And I thought, this is going to be perfect right here because, of course, I'm fishing from the back of the boat. I have it on a 5-minute loop. So if you have it on a loop, then you never miss any of the action. If you get a takedown, you reel in. As soon as you get done, you hit the stop record and start again. Well, now you're looping again, and you can get everything. And so anyway, I think I might have caught one fish or whatever. Well, I was moving to another spot because the water was really fast. And I'm just idling. I never was getting on plane or anything else. I set my trolling motor. I'm sitting here ready to go. I get set up. I make my cast out, and I'm thinking, where in the heck's my camera? It's gone. And I had it hooked to an external hard drive. You know, these external hard drives here that, you hooked it to. It pulled it. Fortunately, I saved the hard drive and the cord, but it pulled it right out of it and was just gone. So now I lost that, and so now I'm thinking, now what am I going to do? I just can't do a show with this chest harness. And so fortunately, I had a handy cam and had it set in my bag, camera bag, and I had a little old tripod. It looked so silly, and I had to set that down in there. And so now, if I got a fish or whatever, I was relying on my chest camera to get takedowns or whatever, and then I'd have to go over and turn that camera on, hit the record button. So it just made it a mess, but it worked out. And fortunately, I made some sort of halfway decent catfish show. But yes, I had that. That's the only camera that over all the years since 2004 that's the first camera that we lost.
I use those GoPro Hero 4s also. I like them a lot myself.
Yeah, that Hero 4 Black, that's I've still got one left. Now I've got a Hero 9 now. It's the new fancy schmancy whatever that G3 got me, and it's so far it's pretty nice. It's got the LCD screen not only in the back of it, which I never had LCD screens on any of these, but it's got the LCD not only on the back, but it's got it on the front too. So that really makes it nice. And I also got an adapter that you can fit on it that I was going to run and get it, but I won't bore people with it. But it's got an external mic on it too. So that makes it pretty nice. So that's what I'll be using this year.
Had a few more people come in. Jason Lamb, Brett's catfishing. I've seen a couple videos. You do some shallow water lake fishing. What lake are you fishing when you're in there?
Well, it makes it easy on me because especially this past year, when everybody was kind of limited to travel and how the craziness of 2020. You would think with the year being 2020, we would have seen all this coming. But anyway, so it was over at Truman Lake. That's not a very deep lake to start with. And my buddy Jeff Falkenberry, of course, he guides over there. So I cheat. So I know when something's going on, I can just call Jeff and he'll just go, oh yeah, they're just, they're wearing them out. And it makes it kind of nice, because then I can, on that shallow water, depending on where I am, you basically just kind of put in and pull over there my gosh, I'm drifting in no more than 3 feet of water. And that would be an excellent place for planer boards. I've never planer board for catfish. I've got a couple of planer boards that we use for a photo shoot this year, but I've never used them. But just basically drifting was the fun kind. It's just drifting. When you're that shallow, of course, then you don't have to use that heavy a weight. And but that right there is neat. A lot of times, as a lot of you guys know, that with fish any shallow water for catfish, I always say you can see the bite. And what I mean by that is the fish are at the surface before you see the rod bend. You'll see them blow up because you got to figure there's only one place they can go, and that's up. And they don't have very far to go. And it's funny to watch because you'll be looking out. I have a tendency to look out where my lines are because I'll see the catfish come to the surface and then I'll see the rod load up. So that's pretty exciting because how often is it that you see a catfish busting the surface?
No,
other than right at the boat, of course, So
not very often.
That makes it pretty fun.
I call shallow water like 15 foot. I can't do anything less than that. It's hard for me to. I see an old squirrel come in. How you doing, buddy? That's that Osage River you was talking about. It seems to have a pretty good blue catfish population in it.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get when you're looking at, like, say, the Osage River. I mean, there's times that I can skip a flat rock all the way across it. So, it's not like it's that big. So you're not going to have the the monster fish on it that you would some of the major rivers or lakes or reservoirs across the country. But there are a lot of numbers, and I don't know. I'm 50-50 on whether or not viewers want to see numbers of fish, or do they just want to see one big fish. I remember over the years the guides were always saying, well, I wish we'd catch 4 60-pounders for this show. Well, I'm like, okay, well, now that would be wonderful for me because I'd have one hell of a great show, 4 60-pounders. But it ain't going to do no good for you for your guide business because now everybody that shows up is going to think they need to be catching 4 60-pounders. Yes. We have one 60-pounder and then we catch some 15s and 20s. That's realistic. That's what people can come to expect. But if you sit out here that people think you're going to catch that many, well, that's not what you're going to get on the Osage River. You're not going to get 4 60-pounders. I mean, if you get a 60-pounder, then you're going to be very lucky. But I would say that the majority of the fish you're going to be catching are going to be 5, 10, 15, and maybe 20 pounds. And even in Truman, there's some big fish that get caught in there that could be 50 pounds or whatever, but it's not really the norm. And they have slots over there too. And I don't hold me to what they are because I don't know what the slots are. I don't keep any of them anyway. But so you've got to be very conscious on what you're going to keep because you have to you can keep one over something and then the others have to be under something, and everything in this slot I think has to be. Or maybe vice versa. Maybe you keep the slot and then I don't know, but Truman is a great cat fishery as far as numbers of fish, and especially in the summertime in this shallow water. There's a lot of times when we have to just idle to where we're going to go. Well, I should say in the winters when we're doing this, that we have to idle in, and you can actually see the catfish just moving, just swimming away from the boat that's how shallow we are. Now, I mean, there's some drum and for you Louisiana boys, some Gasper Goop. There's some drum that that move out there, some carp or whatever, but a lot of them are the catfish, and that's kind of fun. And but I don't know whether a lot of your viewers or your constituents there like to catch, channel cats. I don't know whether the majority of your audience or who's watching us right now are bluecat guys or flathead guys, but I like going out and catching channel cats. I enjoy that.
We got some guys that they just love them channel cats, but I'd say most people that around they like them blue cats and them big old flatheads.
Yeah.
Hey, Lee Evans, Mr. Lee Evans, no, them are tangled with catfish rods. See that question out in chat, so I wanted to get him. I know you said that that big Alabama blue cat, he didn't fight that hard. So what's been your hardest fight in a catfish?
The hardest fight in a catfish, I never got in. It was on the Mississippi River actually, and it was at night because it was so hot that day. It was just. I mean, it was just brutal. The sweat was coming off us. We could have shampooed 12 sheep. And so we went out that night, and I had a takedown that was just ferocious. And I mean, from the get-go, one of those fish that just whipped you from the hook set. I mean, fought the whole way. And like I said, we're on the Mississippi River too, so there's, even if it doesn't look like current, there's current. And that fish would not come up. I mean, it was just like I was hooked to a like a log at times. He just hunkered down like a big old alligator gar would do or something, just hang down there at the bottom. And he fought me and fought me and fought me. And I could tell, you know how you can tell when they roll on you and they get in that line, and then you can feel the slack when they roll out of it. Well, when he did that, and he was probably then about, I'd say probably 5 feet from the surface, but you still couldn't see because you can't see that deep in the Mississippi River.
Right.
And that hook just came right out. And but the fat. Just the fat, on the line, the slime and the fat was, oh my gosh, it was 3 feet up the line. And so that was a really, really good fish. And it was so funny when I did that. That was the week of, I think, when they went through that, what was it, that 1 month where back-to-back world records or something were caught there at the confluence. Right there, and that was during that time. Now, I'm not saying that I had one or what. Now, I guess I can because I didn't get him in, so I can say, well, that was a world record, But you can tell it's a big fish. But the one fish that really fought me the hardest, I never even got him in, and justifiably so. He won that battle, so I didn't get him.
Mr. Chunky Cats came in the house. T-Bone. Appreciate y'all guys coming in.
There's a lot of cool nicknames on there. There's a lot of cool nicknames you're saying.
I wish we'd have been able to get the chat up for you. But what got you started in the TV show?
Well, I checked my sanity at the door there. That's for sure. I was in the aluminum industry. I sold aluminum extrusions to a good part of the aluminum boat industry, the manufacturers, and I started selling G3 in their infancy when they first got started as Generation 3, and so a friend of a friend was doing a local show over here, and of course me being in the industry or whatever with boats and aluminum, and I knew all the people, and I was always an avid fisherman or whatever, not stone cold like a lot of your viewers out there, real fishermen. I was just more of a novice, but I knew a lot of people and had a lot of fun with it and whatever. And this guy that had this TV show was wanting to know if I had any contacts. He was going to be down in Louisiana and wanted to shoot a show. And I said, actually I do. I've got a really good friend down there, and he catches redfish. And I said, well, I'll be down there in about a month if you want to meet me down there and introduce you. Well, anyway, I ended up being on this show as just kind of like a guest or whatever. And so it was not hard for me at all to do this. It was, in fact, it was so easy. It was just by being myself, and I was just doing it. Well, I guess it was probably 3 or 4 months later, the guy called and he goes, hey, we're editing this show up here at the TV studio. If you want to come and see how they do it. And I said, well, yeah, I'm not doing anything. I'll do it. I went in this dark room, and there was a gal in there at the computer, and she was putting, doing her editing and putting the clips in. Well, he had his note sheet out. He was telling her how he wanted everything. Well, he leaves, and she comes, wheels her seat up there to me, and she said, have you ever thought about doing a TV show? And I said, God, no. I said, I've got a job. I don't want to do a TV show. She goes, you'd be really good at it. You're a lot better than he is. And so little by little, I'd kind of help him out a little bit, and I'd do it. And then I thought, I could probably do this, just for fun, kind of like what YouTubers are doing now. Of course, we didn't really have, well, I guess there was YouTube. I don't know when YouTube came out, but if you wanted YouTube, it was mainly you better have it on a TV show. But it was just a local, fun kind of deal. Got an old camera, and I just had my buddies shoot. Whoever was with me could be a cameraman. It didn't matter. And just started shooting stuff. There'd be times, because like I said, I had a job. I'd shoot a show on a Tuesday. We'd edit it on a Wednesday, and I'd air it Saturday. I mean, damn near a live show. And so I had it on here in Springfield, and I got it over in Joplin, and a couple of stations in Northwest Arkansas, and it was just starting to wear me out, and it was kind of getting into my real job. Well, then my real job started getting with the extrusions with an American aluminum extruder. We were really catching grief from Mexico and China, just like with everything else with imports. And I could start seeing that my future may be waning down. And plus, I've been doing it for 20 years, and I thought, well, I'm just old enough and dumb enough to try something different. And so I went and started talking to a couple of corporate sponsors, and Yamaha included, and I called up Fox Sports and said, hey, I've been doing a TV show, thinking about maybe putting it on there. I've got all these local stations, they're wearing me out, and it would just be better just to be on one. And he goes, well, he said, I'm not really looking for anything, but send me 2 of your best shows. And I said, buddy, I don't have a best show. They're all pretty bad. I'll just send you just 2 random shows that if you think it's worthy enough, then there you go. So I sent him in, and I thought I'd never hear from this guy again. His name's Rick Powers at Fox. So I'm still friends with him now. And he got back with me like in 3 or 4 days. So I don't know. He must have been drunk or something, and lost a bet or whatever. And he said, man, I think we can do something. When can you get started? And I'm like, hell, I've ain't nobody seen the ones I really aired. I mean, I can start there. So that gave me a little heads up. So anyway, little by little, I got to talking to some people, and it just started kind of coming together, and I talked to G3. When I started, I was Midwest Sportsman. And so when I was talking to G3 about them, because I knew that was the boat I wanted. They had a bunch of different styles of boats. And then plus also they'd been talking to me about, well, we need to really rebrand this line of boats. We need to get it out there. We're stagnant. We need somebody out there, because there's a lot of people don't even know what a G3 is. And so we need to really start branding this stuff. You're doing a show, so instead of us going out there and do something, let's just get you. And so we really put a lot of thought in the name of the show by going from Midwest Sportsman to G3 Sportsman. So we really took a lot of time thinking about that. And hey, little by little, people kind of got to throwing money at it. And next thing you know, I'm on Fox Sports. And then, of course, now another funny story with Sportsman Channel. When the Sportsman Channel first came on, it was just on whatever TV affiliate, wherever it was across the country, could just air it on any dead air time that they had. I mean, so it could be 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever else. And when it first started, and so they basically just begging anybody that had a show to put it on the Sportsman Channel. So I was one of the first shows to be on the Sportsman Channel. And it was so funny. I used to say that two people were watching the Sportsman Channel, and one of them used to email me all the time telling me how shitty it was. So I had 50% of the viewership at that time on the Sportsman Channel. And but also it was kind of funny when I first started and DVR came, when DVR first came out, I told everybody that my show is so bad that they fast forward through the show just to watch the commercial. So, but that's kind of how I got started and started doing it. And I ran it for, 13 years, and we did over, 300 something episodes or whatever. And, but if it was up to me, I would have just done catfish and crappie. That's my two favorite fish to go for. And I think that's the people that are the best group of folks. I don't fit in with the bass crowd. I'm not a trout fisherman. I'm not a fly fisherman or none of that. I just like going after fish that not only you can eat, but you can, catch and release and have a big time with it. It's kind of like golfing. You meet a better group of people in the rough. Well, that's kind of the way catfishermen and crappie guys are. You go to the catfish conference or whatever else, and you see these good old boys. Some of them's wearing bib overalls and this, that, and the other. But let me tell you, there's no finer people. No finer people. And don't misjudge them either. Now, when they say, hey, I'm thinking about buying this or buying that, and you go, this guy, he couldn't buy nothing. Let me tell you, he'll pull out a Jed Clampett, roll $100 bill, and he'll pay for that no problemo. So don't ever underestimate these old boys. And, they're just good, hardworking guys. And when I first went to that conference 2 or 3 years ago, I was really blown away at how nice everybody was. And they're just good people.
Yeah, everybody was pretty upset when it got canceled this year, but everybody understands why. But
yeah.
River Rat, how you doing, buddy? Thomas Littlepage, appreciate you coming in. I seen Hagen Grubbs come in. Thomas, if you had a question, go ahead and pop it up. Let's get it. We'll get it asked. Guess he ain't going to, so we'll just come on up. When you was doing the TV shows, did you edit all them yourself?
In the beginning, I didn't. We were paying somebody to do it, and then I would sit in there and I was trying to put my mind into this guy's head to lay it down, and that was so aggravating. And I thought, it would be so much easier if I was doing it, because I know how I want to put it out there. There's 4 basic principles to doing a show, and that is, where are you? What are you catching? How are you catching them, and why are you catching them that way? And then anything in between could be the gear that you're using or whatever else. But I always wanted a story to be told. I wanted to flow. Now, was it the best or, best edited or whatever? No, because I was doing and 90% of the shows I did the editing. I learned to edit. And I've always said a monkey can edit. It's just you've got to have a brain in there somewhere just to make sometimes you can put a tuxedo on a pig and it looks like a pig in a tuxedo. Other times it just looks like it's still a pig. But so yeah, I ended up doing the editing. In fact, we're sitting right here. This is my editing keyboard right here. So this is the computer that I still edit on. Of course, I edit on an iMac, and then I have a separate monitor over here that I put all my clips in, because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So I want a full screen when I've got to edit in here. And, it was funny. My last couple years that I aired, I was on NBC Sports, and their engineers and their editing team or whatever would tell me, well, can you do this or do that? You can do this in your circuit board and your audio this. And I'm going, hey, I ain't got none of that stuff. I'm going to tell you where my audio is. There's a little bar right there on the right-hand side. And I keep it right around -12 dB. That's it. I don't have anything else. I may do a little color correcting here and there, whatever, but that's it. They're just boom. They're just like, have you got away with this all these years, and you've edited on, or you've aired on all these stations and stuff? Like one time I was airing like 8 times a week, like 4 different networks. And, but that's how I did it. I mean, same keyboard right here. I still prefer to edit in Final Cut 7, even though I can't pull any 4K footage in there. In fact, my last upgrade, I don't know what it was up to, Mojave or whatever else. I thought it was going to just blow off and I wasn't going to have that again. So now I'm learning this Adobe Premiere that I think a lot of people are editing in now. And it's kind of muscle memory on it too. It doesn't have some of the shortcuts. In fact, this is an old color-coded shortcut keyboard for actually Final Cut. So I'm having to relearn everything, but it's been a fun thing to do.
I've seen a question. What new G3s are coming out for 2021 in the 16 to 18 foot range?
Well, I don't know about anything new. You know, in the sportsman line, the G3. See, I call them boats G3 sportsman models. Now, G3 calls them the G3 sportsman models. They have a pause in between. But the 16 through the 19s, which they're really 17s through a 20, because they're 1910. I mean, that's pretty much a 20-foot boat. You know, the more of the Mod V style. More of the guys here that are thinking, you know, on the sportsman models are the 2100 and the 2400 that we came up with a few years ago. We did add on the 2400, we extended the front deck just enough to where we could put 2 dry boxes up in the front. And we're going to try that out to see how that works, if whether or not the people really like that. The reason why we didn't have a lot of the storage compartments and rod lockers and everything else is because other boats had that. We didn't really want to be like every other boat. Most of the people that I researched or whatever would say, well, I carry all my catfish stuff in a coffee can. You know, sinkers are in there, the hooks are in there. That's basically all it is. And if I'm in a motel, I usually take my rods and put them in the room anyway. We prefer the room. So that's what we went for. We went for the room in the boat. Now, we still wanted it to be safe, and we still wanted it to be well constructed, and we wanted to still have a dry ride. And we're not going to please everybody. We're not out there trying to get the biggest piece of the pie in this catfish market. We're not trying to do that. It's not the only boat that we make. We make 125 different models of boats. But we do want a boat that it gives the catfisherman's choices. You know, I'll never talk bad about another competitor's boat. There's no reason for me to. I know what it takes to build these boats, and I know that even the competitors' boats, not everybody's happy with them either. So it's a good mix, you know, with the boats that are out there. Like I said, the only change is on the 2400. We're going to put those 2 dry boxes right up there in the front. The rest, really, we're staying kind of the way it is, because we're just kind of, we're not painting the rails, we're not putting fancy wheels on them, you know, because that's just more of a cost and this, that, and the other. We make a strong boat. It's going to float. They're all going to have Yamahas, every one of them. Yamaha is still the ruler for which all others are measured by, as far as I'm concerned. You know, competitively priced. Some are going to say we're going to be too high. You know, I don't know. We'll see how this works out on the 2400, and then if it does, we may actually reconstruct a little bit and to where we can have the boxes in the 2100. But we wanted to start that in the 2400 now. I think we did extend the rails. They're longer from the console back towards the stern. Again, we've increased the length on them, and we're putting a little beefier seat on there. On those, I think is another one of the changes. But other than that, we're kind of staying the way it is. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know, we're always interested in hearing, you know, feedback. We have a G3 Boats owners page, and where the owners, that's been a really a good thing to where people can bounce ideas off of one another. And of course, always everybody, you know, if they think G3 and if they know who I am, there's still a lot of people out there who still think I own G3. I can assure you, if I own G3, oh yeah, I'd have me some sweet stuff going. But you know, it's a hard thing to do, to try to build a boat that's going to please every single angler out there. And like I said, you know, there's enough pie for everybody to go around. There's no reason to complain about another guy's boat or whatever else. If that's what he wants to fish out of, then that's fine. It's just like with rods and reels and everything else. Everybody makes a good product. It's just what suits you. If we only had one boat, or we only had one rod or one reel, how boring would that be? We wouldn't have nothing to talk about then. So you know, so we're out there, you know, we're plugging away. If we sell some of them, hey, that's great. We'll keep building some of them. And if people just decide they don't want to buy any of them no more, then we'll make something else. I don't know. I would like to, one of the things I would like to do is on our bigger deep V models, I'd like to put a larger live well in that boat. I don't know. I'd hate to have to compete with the Sportsman model now, having a deep V with that, but I think that would be a good thing to throw out there for some anglers, because you know the deep V is by far, you're going to get no better ride than that. Now you're going to get more windage on a higher side boat, and it may be harder to get. But Mike Mitchell fishes out of a 21, one of our 21-foot older model deep V's. And of course he has to have his own live well in there that he uses, but I'd like to be able to do that, because if anything, those boats can handle 65, 70, 80 gallon live well in it. And it's also, they're big enough. And that would be something, I think that would be the next thing that I'd like to see us try.
I think we got time for a couple more questions. My buddy Mike Chavez wants to know, what would be your advice for somebody making YouTube videos?
I think audio is the main thing. Make sure that you can hear it. Audio I think is just as important as video. You know, you can spend as much as you want to. Of course, it's always better if you have somebody with you and they can run camera. That right there is the easiest thing you can do. But in this world now of POV cameras, I think the easiest way to do it is just put it on a loop. Just put your POV on a loop, a 5-minute loop. That's an easy thing to get in there and do. And once you start it, then it's always running. And you know, have it set up to where, you know, it's set up to where you can see your takedowns and all on that. And then when you catch that fish or whatever, hit your stop and then start it again. And now you've got you another clip. So in post, when you're going to edit that piece, you'll have 5 1-minute clips, but they'll be concurrent right there, and you'll always have that. But then always have something to where your audio. Make sure you can hear it. There's nothing worse than watching a good video and guys are catching fish and it's just or the wind is just howling or whatever. And the hardest part is in these really cold days, these really, really cold days when people are bundled up. That's the hardest part. But now these POV cameras, now, like I said, they've got these adapters that comes on there, and they've got a boom mic that's actually on there, and it has a little windscreen. And you can also get the little Rode, the little dead cats, you know, that you can put on. I guess that would be like a dead mouse in that little video. Put those on there, and those work good. Just control it. Kind of experiment with it before you go out. Put it in front of a fan or something, you know, to where you'll know where to set your level. But my biggest thing is just make sure your audio is as good as your video.
And everybody likes to know, what gear are you still using? The ugly sticks, and have you got the new ugly sticks yet?
Man, let me tell you. Now that's another thing. You know, that's just a preference. You know, now I was with Pure Fishing for a long time, And I got those ugly sticks, those white, just what were they at the time? $30, $39.99 or whatever. I used to tell the brand manager there at Shakespeare, I said, you guys would sell far more of them if you would raise the price to $89.99. You're selling them for $39.99 and nobody thinks they're any good because everybody else is $89.99 and up. But I've had these same ones for, I guess this will be the 15th year. The 2-piece, 8-foot, medium heavy, same ones. And I'm telling you, those rods will get in any freshwater fish, and I'll guarantee you most saltwater fish. They are almost indestructible. I've only seen one splinter, and that was Ryan Casey high sticking one. And now he'll swear to this day that he did not do that, but he did. He added up to the first islet, and y'all know what I'm talking about, high sticking one of them. And he did. He didn't have to, but he did. But those rods, I mean, for the money, I'm not sitting here trying to put a shameless plug out there, but for the money. But once again, there are so many. Now, what's those rods behind you there?
Tangling with catfish.
There you go. I think is that the one that Casey uses too?
Yes.
Okay. Well, see, I caught my biggest fish on that. So there you go. I never caught a 90, 80, 100-pound catfish on an ugly stick, but I did on those rods. So I do have now, I've got some B&M silver cats. Jack sent me 4 or 5 or 6 of those. There's seven fives. And I surprisingly enough, I think I shot a couple of things in them last year. Surprisingly enough, I like those. Those were nice. But if I'd have had tangling with catfish, what is it, Whiskers, Seekers, and others or whatever, I'd have been happy with them too. I really would. I think everybody makes a good. And once again, it's a preference. It's just what you like. I'm not going to dog you because your rods are green and mine are red, or yours are blue and mine are white, or I'm doing this or doing that. They'll all get them in. They'll all get them fish in.
Until Tangling with Catfish comes out with a bumping rod, I love my B&M bumping rods.
I'm gonna tell you what a bumping rod. Now you're talking about back bouncing or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Abu Garcia had come out with I can't think of the voltage, not voltage, it's something. It was a big old, I think they were actually going to be used for like muskie or whatever, but they were 8-foot, 1 piece. So it kind of made them aggravating to if I wanted to put them in the truck, but my cameraman had to sit on top of rods from the front seat to the back. How you'd have to put them in that way. But they were so light, but so sensitive. And, when you're sitting there, because you usually got a big old round reel like a Abu 7000 or whatever, because you got to have a lot of line. So when you're sitting there and you're holding that, you need the backbone. You need the strength. Of course, anytime you're catching a big blue cat, you need the strength of rod, but you also need it light to where it doesn't wear you out all day. And that pole right there was unbelievable. And I gave Ryan a bunch of them. And I think his guide people ended up breaking most of them. And I don't even think they make them anymore. But those were really nice. And the first ones I used, believe it or not, was Fenwick muskie rods, cork handle. But they had a guide look like about every 4 inches. I think that 8-foot pole had like 24 guides. But those worked really good too, for as far as a bumping rod. It's funny on a lot of guys. I guess you stand up when you're doing that. You're bumping.
I sit down sometimes.
I'll tell you this is about the only way I like doing it, or how I can do it. I don't do it often enough. I have to sit down and I have to use a free spool. I free spool it. I see people, they're clicking it, and then they're clicking. They're clicking and they're clicking. I just keep a free spool and I have my thumb on it. And boy, because you got to concentrate. If you're back there, my gosh, you may be back there 100 yards and you're trying to feel a 4-ounce weight. You lose track of that bottom. That's it. You just might as well just reel it on up and start all over.
You just start all over. That's right.
But that's how I like doing it. I like to hold that reel with my thumb on the spool, and I can just barely ease out a little line when I have to or whatever. But that's the only way I can do it. I can't just stand up and click it and then click and click and then click. I just can't. I'm not coordinated enough, I guess.
It's funny you said that Abu Garcia rod. My buddy Steven, the guy that actually showed me the bumping technique, he had a couple years back. I guess it was 2016. He showed me on that Abu reel you're talking to, or that Abu rod you're talking about. I thought that was pretty crazy.
I can't think of the name of it. Of course, back then was when Abu was doing all this V series stuff. It was all V something, goofy V names, and I can't think of the name of it. But that rod was, man, it was really, really good. For that, just that, and it worked out really, really good.
And I love telling the little story too. Very first fish I caught bumping, I didn't even catch it because we had the spool open. We're sitting there bumping, and it was a slow night. And that fish finally hit, and I just instinctively let go. We made a big old bird's nest. It was awful.
Oh yeah. There's no doubt about that. You know, it will. But the boy, if you lose, I found out if you lose the bottom, just lick your wounds, reel it up, and start it over again. That's all you can do. Because man, I'm gonna tell you, you got a battle on your hand when they're out there 100 yards.
Yes. I don't know if you've watched many or if any of all of my videos, but if you go check one out, go check the one out where my buddy caught a 92-pounder bumping.
Jeez.
That was awesome.
Hey, kudos to any guys that are catching. Like I said, a 60+ blue cat. I think that should be listed, or maybe 70 and up. Could be like a trophy. I don't know what is considered a trophy. With these fish that are being caught now, I mean, it's almost daily you see somebody catching one that's 80 now. You know, now we could get into the pay leg thing, and that really gets me mad. But you don't want to see me start cussing now. That'll get me. But you know, we really just do have to protect our resources here. Any of these big fish, you know, that you get, you know, I love the fact, you know, with the catch, photo, and release, the CPR method or whatever. But it's never been more important than it is now that we need to do that. Get your picture taken, you know, get these fish revived. It takes a lot out of these old fish. I know, you know, I'm an old man, and I know I get tired quicker. And so if I sit there, and I'm sitting there at the dinner table, and I grab some corn on the cob, and I take a big old bite. Next thing you know, there's a hook in my mouth, and I'm drugged all the way across the living room, and I'm fighting through the kitchen, out the garage, and down the yard, and down the street, and everything. Well, I'm wore out by the time I get to the boat. And then I got a thing stuck in my mouth or whatever else. And you know, you need to revive these fish and get them in the live well and get them going good. Let them sit in there a little while, get some fresh water on them. You know, take you a couple of pictures of whatever, and then get them fish back in the water as fast as you can.
Hey, Paula Smith, thanks for stopping by. On your SD cards, I guess, what size do you use? Since you do the looping, you probably don't have to have real big ones, do you?
Well, if you're going to shoot in 4K, you better. Usually a 32 gig or 64 gig is what I have. If you shoot in 4K, you know, the difference between 1080 and 4K is, you know, this, where am I at? That's 1080 and this is 4K, you know, so that's the difference, you know. So it's of course, you don't have to shoot in 4K. Nobody really has to, because if you're going to be watching this on this, even if they pull it up on their TV, 1080 is still 1080. I mean, my gosh, you know, and when you get old like me, hell, I don't even need to be on HD. I need to be in standard depth. I need to be in black and white. But I'd say 32 gig is enough. I mean, you know, it can still take up a lot of footage. If you're having a great day and you're hitting that button every time, I mean, you got 5 minutes of footage, you know, each time you hit that clip. And so if you may have you may have 40 clips. So, I mean, you're looking at several gigs of footage right there, you know, especially with if you're running 2 cameras. But I'd say 32 gigs would do it. But then just store them, you know, store your stuff. One of the things I'd tell you is get one of these. It's so funny. I have that mark because I had so many of these, and that's how I used to send my shows to the broadcasters, and I would keep up with that one is hard drive number 5 there, whatever. I had like 10 of these. And I think after I quit doing the show, I think I only got like 6 back. So somebody broadcast, so I kept 4 of them. But what I would do is dump your card on your computer, put it in a file or whatever, and put your show together or whatever. And then when you do, just get a hard drive and put all your clips when you're done with them. Put them all on this, and then get it off your computer. So you want your computer, you want as less amount of stuff on your computer to where your computer runs as quickly as it can. Because I have spent a third of my life rendering, and it's just, there's nothing worse than just sitting around waiting on a render.
Right.
But that's one of the things that I would say, don't do it off the card, don't edit from the card, pull everything off, and then you're editing and everything's in your card. I'd dump it on your desktop in a folder, then pull the card out of your computer, and then when you're done with it, throw all your footage on a hard drive, and then label them. Like this one is 2018. Label them in the year, then that way it's easier to kind of keep up with what you're where you can find your stuff. Organization when it comes to editing is about as important as anything. Being organized and being able to find something, because that's the great thing about all these things. Even if you do webisodes, then you've got so much to grab from these little 30-second clips that now you can put on Instagram and all that stuff. So you've just got nothing but constant footage that you can just keep showing and showing and showing. Well, if you're thinking about, that Mike Mitchell flathead, I know that's whatever year that was. I'm just throwing it out there, 2016. I go into my 2016, and there's even room on there if you wanted to, that you could put, some of your most popular things in there to give you that idea on there. You can take a Sharpie or whatever, put them on there. But organization is one of the biggest keys when it comes to footage and editing.
That's really good information there. Really good information. Thank you. We'll try to close it out here in a few minutes. I don't want to keep everybody too long. But, what's your favorite fish to chase? I've seen you got there doing them crappies and catfish.
I'd have to. If I only had one, it'd probably be crappie. But catfish is a real contender. Like I said earlier in this broadcast, that my 2 favorite fish are crappie and catfish. If that's all I ever had to fish for, I'd be happy. My life would be complete. Now, I'm not saying that catching a big old king salmon or something in Oregon ain't fun, because it is. I love catching redfish too. I mean, any of you boys that like to catch these big blue cats because you love the fight, go catch some redfish. That feels like, especially bull reds, you feel like you're hooked onto a jet ski. But that kind of stuff is fun too. But I live in the Midwest, so it's not like I have a lot of salt, in my diet. So it's fun to chase different things or whatever. But where I'm at here, it's just so easy to go after catfish. And I'm not going to catch the biggest. I'm really not. It's really hard to go out and shoot a webisode and everything come together where every time you go out, even most of the time you go out and you catch the fish that's big enough for everybody to think that it was even worthy of watching it. Catfishing now has almost become the deer hunting of fishing now, because if you're not a Boone and Crockett, then what's the point of even watching? If you these deer, if it's not a 150 plus or now 160 plus or whatever, I'm not going to watch that. And then now it's almost the way it is with the catfish. If you're not have at least one 50, 60 pound catfish in there, and you're like, you're just catching a bunch of dinks. So, but it's hard to get out there and do this, especially with what I do. I mean, I could go out there and live feed and do this, that, and the other, whatever, but that's not what I am in marketing with G3. We try to shoot webisodes or whatever. So I try to make from here on out, now you've got all this live technology and this video fishing and everything. So now everybody's head's just down looking at a screen, and it's taking the human element out of everything. And I mean, there could be some poor old guy in his boat just out of earshot sinking, and they'd never hear him or see him because they're looking down at the screen all the time. So, I'm going to try to give it more of a Americana type, something more of the story about what we're doing and where we're at or whatever, and appreciate what we're doing rather than just looking at a screen. Because if we all just doing the same thing, boy, there's no originality to it. The crappie fishing videos now is just, well, there he is. He's coming up. He's got it. Okay. Well, I mean, how many of them can you watch? I mean, it's just the same thing over and over. And I guess you can do this same technology somehow in catfishing. I guess you can see, because the last show I shot, we actually could see some catfish. You could make them out what they are. And I guess you could still do the same thing then. And I hope it's really not. I really hope that that's not where it goes in catfishing, because at least with catfishing, you guys out there, you still have to use your noodle, and it's more fishing. We're still giving everything a sporting chance. If you can see everything down there, I mean, people say, well, you still got to get them to bite. Well, if you know they're there, you're going to throw something down there until they bite it. It's no different than if you had these special goggles and you climbed up in your deer stand and you see woods all around you. Now you put these special goggles on, well, you don't see the trees. Well, hell, how hard is that then to kill a deer or whatever? I didn't know that old buck was there. Take the goggles off and they can't see. Put them back on, there's no trees. Well, there he is. So that's what it's coming to, in this. And I'm old school. I'm an old grouch when it comes to stuff like that. But, I still like to, mano a mano. He's down there hiding from you. He don't want a hook in his mouth, but that's exactly the opposite of you. That's what you're trying to do. And so it's man against beast. And so if you can outsmart him and get him in there, now you've done something. But if you've seen, there he is. I mean, it's like fishing in an aquarium or something. Right. And it just doesn't seem the same. So I don't know whether right now this technology is into the catfishing or whatever, and I hope it really doesn't, because I think it just takes the human element away from it. And I don't know, I'm just all about giving something a sporting chance.
Has Life came in. I seen 2 stands fishing come by. We'll do 2 more questions this time. We'll be done, I promise. What's your favorite memory in fishing, period?
Favorite memory in fishing, period. Well, that one in Alabama, both those, that was my biggest flathead. And anytime you can catch the fish, your biggest fish, that's always something that's memorable. And those 2, I was with 2 great people, Mike Mitchell one time and then Ryan Casey another time. Anytime you can catch, that kind of fish. But then again, it's hard to pinpoint the most memorable, because the one thing about my travels, and I've been so fortunate to be able to do what I have been doing, is the people that I have met along the way. And I can't think of one that was, just a butthole or whatever, and think I'll never fish with this guy again or whatever. I think without question, I think that's every person that we did had some great quality or whatever. And so as far as my greatest memory, I'm just going to say that my career has just been one constant great memory in doing what I'm doing, to represent a good company and good companies back in the day, and to be able to do what I'm doing. Was it easy? No, it wasn't, because we shot 26 shows a year. If you think about that, that's one every other week, and that was hard work to try to do. It aged me well. I'm only 25, So y'all look at me right here. I mean, that was rough, but it was. I've really been fortunate, and any guy that people say, well, I'm a professional fisherman. No, I am not. My profession is fishing. So there's a big difference in that. I don't have to catch that fish in order to get paid. I'm still going to be paid whether or not I catch one, but eventually they're going to say, hey, if you don't start catching fish, we're going to stop paying you.
Right.
But my hat's off to tournament guys. I could never be that. I'm not smart enough. You got to figure the past 17 years, I've been put on fish. It's hard for me to go out now, and because I almost have to relearn to fish, because once you're put on fish for so many years, all you have to learn is the technique. And I say that can still be tough too. Well, and then you go with different species, whether you're catfishing one week or crappie fishing, you're bass fishing, you're doing something or whatever else. You have to just learn the technique or whatever. But I'm not going to complain. I could have been doing something far more strenuous or whatever. But I'd say my best memory has been my career, my whole career with the people that I've got to meet and fish with.
That's pretty awesome. Well, I'm sure glad you came on and spent a little time with us. We might have to do this again just because I got a whole nother sheet of questions to ask.
Yeah, well, like I said, when you get these old TV show hosts on, we don't have a problem talking. And just appreciate everybody that watched and I don't have a complete 200 or 300 episodes of catfishing, but our G3 Sportsman YouTube page, we have some. And I'll try to get more. And if you've got an idea or a place or sometime or another, and we might be able to fish together, some of you guys out there, just shoot me a Facebook message. Y'all can find me. I'm pretty easy to be. I can be found pretty easy. And who knows, we may be able to hook up and do something. But Mike, I appreciate what you're doing. And I think this is a big plus for the catfishing industry. And I appreciate that I'm even half-ass relevant enough for you to even invite me on.
He was on my list.
But
Definitely on my list.
I appreciate it, and thank everybody out there that watches or will be watching, because I guess this is something that they can watch later too.
Yeah, it'll upload and it'll stay there. Yep.
Yeah. So hey, I hopefully we did a good enough job, and we didn't embarrass ourselves. And
we're sure getting a lot of likes in the comment box over here. So, and I do have Scott's all his links in the description, so everybody go click on them and watch them. And we're going to go ahead and cut it off here. You'll still be here, but everybody else, I appreciate y'all stopping by, and we'll see you next week.
All right, see you guys.